What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sweat and Iron. I'm Graham, your host.
I'm Connie.
All right. Hey, Connie.
Hi.
Guess what we're going to be doing?
Talking to Nancy.
Well, I talked to Nancy.
Right.
You're going to do the introduction.
Yeah. I'm talking to you about talking to Nancy.
We're going to talk about talking about Nancy. We're going to talk about my talk with Nancy.
Right.
Right. So let's get to what we talked about.
What'd you talk about?
We talked about, we talked about a bunch of stuff. We talked about CrossFit because this is the second episode dealing with CrossFit. But then we went into a little bit more. We went into bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, and then we went into massage therapy.
Nancy does everything.
What was that you said?
Nancy does everything.
Oh, okay. You want to know what I thought you said?
Yes.
I thought you said Nancy does everything.
So I might have said that too.
You might have said that too. Have you been drinking?
No.
Okay. I just want to clear that up. She is sober tonight, everybody. All right. So, anyways, this episode is jam-packed with a lot of information. And Nancy, what can I say? Nancy, getting to know you more was really cool. And you shared a lot of information that it just was awesome to hear.
Nancy's a badass extraordinaire.
Oh, there you go. All right, everybody. Without further ado, enjoy the show. I hear some dishes clinking in the background. What's going on over there?
I was just finishing dinner.
Oh, we could have waited till after.
Well, I made dinner. I packed my husband's lunch for him for the morning because he works 3 hours away. So I was taking what was left over and putting it in a lunch tin.
Oh, you're a good wife. My wife does that for me too.
Yeah, that saves money, right?
It saves money. It saves me time in the morning because he works 3 hours away. Wow, I thought I had a long way to drive. I only drive an hour and 15.
Yeah, he drives 3 hours, 5 days a week there and 3 hours back.
Wow. So what does he do?
He's a director of operations right now. He basically right now he's doing it for a treatment center. He basically, like takes businesses that are just kind of like usually treatment centers, but they really aren't. They don't have it together very well, and he makes it come together for them.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So he's a fixer.
Pretty much, yeah. That's
nice.
A good way to describe him.
Nice. All right, so everybody, we got Nancy here, finally. We're going to talk about many things, CrossFit, working out. There's a boatload of stuff that the people want to know, Nancy.
Okay.
Nancy is a very athletically goal-oriented person. I like to think that she pushes the limits. I mean, you work out just about every day?
Usually 6 days a week.
Seems like it. Your workout plans are phenomenal. We'll get to that. You have a whiteboard and you keep track of everything you do, and you share pictures online. It's so cool to watch. So, are you born and raised in Florida, or are you from somewhere else?
Originally from New York.
You're originally. So, how'd you wind up in Florida?
My parents moved us here when I was 13.
Okay. And then there you stayed.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Pretty much a Florida cracker, I guess.
And you've been. Do you own your own business?
Yeah, I own a massage therapy and personal training business.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Oh, see. Well, did I own my own business, or how long have I been doing massage therapy and personal training? Because I've owned my own business. It'll be 10 years April 5th.
Mm-hmm.
But I became a licensed massage therapist when I was 21 and a certified personal trainer when I was 23. So I'm going to be 41. So I've been a massage therapist almost 20 years.
Wow.
And a trainer what's that, like 18,
Hmm.
17 years.
And where'd you get your certification?
I'm both ACE certified and ISSA.
Okay, all right, cool stuff. All right, so you've got quite a bit of training experience under your belt, I must say. I mean, you're the first person I've come across that actually can say I've been a certified trainer for 20 years,
Almost going on, yeah. And I
almost.
started with somebody that we worked with sports specific training. So we worked with baseball players, golfers, and then I worked my way into bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, and also nutrition.
Okay, so can we go back in time? Can you do that? I mean,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I didn't know if like you, because lately, I mean, I'm 34 and I'm already having some problems with what did I do yesterday? So I mean, I don't know how your memory is. I would assume that you're pretty good, but so let's go back in time. What got you into? You said you were a massage therapist first. That's very interesting. What made you want to pursue that?
Honestly, I was 20, let's see, no, I was 19 years old, and I was sitting there with my brother, and we were talking, and I had gone to college, but I quit. I was not really happy. I was doing communications actually, and I think right after high school, I was just sick of school. So we were just sitting there talking about what we wanted to do with our life, and my brother's like, maybe I'll become a massage therapist, and I'd never even heard of it at the time, and I was like, well, that sounds cool, and I went to school for it, and he ended up going to school for realty, being a realtor instead. So that's about as exciting as that was.
I mean, you know what? It might not sound exciting, but it's very interesting how these very quick decisions just all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that does sound good. I think I'll do it. Actually turn out to be some great decisions because when I think back to how I've found my profession, I started out trying to go for something else, found out I didn't think I'd really enjoy it, and made a last minute decision for something totally different, but my core classes backed me up on it. And I'm doing that job now. I've been doing that job now since 2010, and I'm glad I went ahead with it. But so you went into massage therapy. How in my mind, I'm thinking this was 20 years ago, so that's early 90s, mid 90s, right? Mid 90s.
No, it was like nine. I guess it was early 2000s, right?
Oh, early 2000. Well,
Yeah. So, because I'll be licensed 20 years February of next year. So it's 19 years right now. So if we're in 2019, it was 2000. Yeah, it was February of
okay,
2000 that I
2000.
got.
Okay, so what was it? Was it booming back then, being a massage therapist?
No, I mean, there really wasn't a whole, like, there's a lot more massage therapists now around here. Everywhere I look, I see a massage therapy business. But back then, there really wasn't a whole lot of massage therapy places. In fact, I had never even heard of massage therapy at the time. Um, but there was a few. There was a few around. There wasn't like a ton where we live.
But when you got the job, I'm going to guess that you. So you said you've been in business for yourself for 10 years, you said?
10 years, April 5th. It'll be 10 years, yeah.
So then you started working somewhere, and then somewhere along the line you decided to get into personal training. So had you always been in the gym? Have you always been a gym goer?
No, I mean, I was always athletic. I started as a dancer. I danced when I was young. That's what I wanted to be originally, was a ballerina. But
Oh, cool.
um, when the first person that I worked for was called Massage and Fitness, and the lady I actually was very lucky to work under somebody that was extremely experienced in both massage therapy. She was a continuing education provider, as well as in personal training. So she had a business much like mine that had both um, massage therapy and personal training. So when I was working for her, she kind of took me under her wing and taught me about personal training, and actually taught me even more about massage therapy than you would learn in school. I've learned a lot of the type of massage therapy I do has a lot to do with kind of like medical massage therapy. We work with, frozen shoulders, sciatica, just a lot of like injuries that people would have, people that have had scoliosis, just basically those kind of things. And she had the ability of teaching me training as well as working with the muscles for training so that we don't cause injury, and what muscles to strengthen for specific types of sports. That, we worked with baseball players, one that was actually on the New York Yankees for a little while.
Oh, wow. Okay, so your massage therapy and your personal training actually was more of an exercise science. You did more than just, this is how you work out. This is what you do if you want to work this muscle, if you want to strengthen this area. You got more into detail on the training. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to find somebody that I ended up working for that was able to teach me more in-depth training. Yeah, I guess like exercise science.
All right. You said that you had done everything from bodybuilding to powerlifting, which is kind of interchangeable. Powerlifting, you're just lifting heavier and trying to get those huge numbers. And then you've done CrossFit. So
Yes.
Where did you start, and which one do you enjoy more of? I guess I know it's kind of an open-ended question because you can really, it's hard to pick because CrossFit, you do a little bit of everything. But in your opinion, what have you enjoyed over the years? Where did you start? Can you give us like a timeline?
Yeah, I started with bodybuilding and strength training. So initially I just started working out with my ex-husband. He was my husband at the time. And we just started working out in the gym together, strength training. And basically, he's a guy, I'm a girl, and everybody that he worked out with were males. So I got tired of having to take all the weight off of my bar, so I just learned to lift heavy. So not as heavy as them, but I made sure that I could do at least one plate on each side for whatever exercise that we did, whether it would be bench press or squat or deadlift. But we did a lot of like accessories. We basically worked out like bodybuilders. And while we were in a gym full of bodybuilders, a lady there ended up talking to me and about doing fitness competitions because I danced when I was younger. So that sounded interesting to me. I mean, I wasn't so much into the dieting and physique portion because I was a little bit shy, but I did it specifically because I really enjoyed the fitness round where you did like a 2-minute kind of dance, show off your skills sort of routine with mandatory moves and stuff like that. So I did that for a few years. I was was a national competitor, competed nationally, and then ended up going through a divorce and then getting into a new relationship and getting pregnant. So I think the last competition I did was a physique competition when my daughter was 3 months old. And then after that, it kind of like, having a lot of kids, I didn't really have a whole lot of time for it, but I still stayed with exercise. And I found CrossFit next, and I fell in love with CrossFit. Like, that's absolutely my favorite. I love it. I believe strength training is the most important, even for CrossFit. But because I had already had a good base of strength, I excelled at CrossFit. And I enjoy CrossFit as my cardio. It's a lot more fun to do as a cardio exercise as opposed to like being on a treadmill or going for a run or, something like that. And then from there, I got into powerlifting.
Oh, okay. So you crossed over from strength training into CrossFit and then into powerlifting.
Yeah. And now I do a little bit of each. Myself in my own gym, I train bodybuilding style and I also train powerlifting style. Certain days I do like powerlifting moves. Like on Sundays I do real heavy squats and deadlifts. But on Wednesdays I train more like bodybuilding, where I'll do a lot of sets and reps of different variations of exercises for legs. And then the same with on Tuesday and Friday, I always start with a heavy bench.
Hmm.
And then I'll do more, and then I'll add accessories to it, which would be more like bodybuilding style. And then Monday through Friday in the morning, I also do CrossFit. I go to a CrossFit gym for
Okay.
an hour.
So I was actually going to say that it seemed like lately, at least since I've known you the past year or so, that everything you share has been a mixture, and I felt like CrossFit has always been that deep down passion, and so that's really cool that you still do all three mix and match type thing. Now, you have a whiteboard that keeps popping up on Instagram, Facebook, and this whiteboard has like a bazillion workouts on it.
I train other people too. So
Oh, okay.
sometimes in the whiteboard, you'll see a workout that I may have had for other people up that day, as well as the workout. So I have a huge whiteboard in the back, which I'll put like 3 different people's training exercises for the day up on that one. And then there's a smaller whiteboard that I'll do with other people, like, whether it be my husband or my friend that I work out with. But I always write down whatever we're doing, whether it's strength training or powerlifting, or if we do a CrossFit workout. And that basically comes from CrossFit. I mean, CrossFit, they always write down what the workout of the day is so that everybody can see it.
So where do you do your personal training out of then?
Right out of my personal gym in my garage. It's just a gym. We don't have anything else in the garage but a gym.
It's a gym converted garage.
Yeah, I used to have it as I have a massage therapy business in Jensen Beach, and I used to have them combined in the same facility, but it was kind of hard for people to be getting massages while weights were dropping in the background. So
yeah, I would think it's really hard to get relaxed when you hear the clinking happening all the time, and you're like, what's going on over there?
Yeah. So we moved the gym we converted the garage strictly into a gym for now. Maybe one day when it gets bigger, we'll, rent another space, but right now that's about, all I can handle anyway.
Silly question. Do you have to take out any extra insurance for doing personal training in your home?
Yeah. Yep. I have to carry liability insurance as well as an extra property. It's basically if somebody was like to slip and fall or get hurt coming into the place or.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. So now that we've got all those bases covered, let's go into some fun questions that I think will definitely be intriguing to hear answers for. So, let's see. Are your kids okay back there?
Yeah, my son's just getting a little bit mad about something.
You want to check on him, or are you okay?
No, he's okay. He's
Okay.
probably mad at his sister for taking a toy.
I'm totally used to that. I got the almost 3-year-old and the almost 6-year-old, and that happens all the time. So let's do Eric Kuhn's question here. He's talking about your CrossFit. He says, I know that she can lift a ton and that you work on your endurance training a lot.
Yeah.
So he's noticed that a lot of CrossFit athletes don't train CrossFit workouts all the time. He wants to know what variety you use. Well, we already covered that you do all 3, but is there something that you can say in particular that you focus on more? Or
No, because CrossFit really is full body. So I focus on full body strength. And, I think it's important I think any CrossFit athlete, because a lot of them, that just do CrossFit, the reason that they don't progress is because they don't focus on their strength. And, it's so important. Strength is so much more important when you're lifting heavy weights fast. You have to know how to have a strong core, how to hold your breath, when to breathe. All of those things are so important, which muscles to activate, when you're doing even kipping pull-ups. Like, I know they look ridiculous to a lot of people, but I think if you don't have the strength to do strict pull-ups, you really shouldn't be doing kipping pull-ups. They're for going faster through the exercise. It allows you to move faster, but you need to have the strength and shoulder stability. Otherwise, you're going to injure yourself, in my opinion.
Okay. That's actually a very good point. I mean, you want to work on the stability, you want to work on the strength before you start doing all the higher end stuff and hurt yourself. Now, Mindy Smith asked a question that Allie, I had mentioned online that I had interviewed Allie for CrossFit, but it would be very interesting to hear your answer to this, because I asked Allie the same question. How would a newbie find a CrossFit gym? What are they to look for?
For a CrossFit gym,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all over the place. You have to find a place that obviously you're going to mesh well with the people and the coaches. And I would look for a place that, they focus on your form and teaching, especially if you've not exercised at all, but teaching you good form specifically, where they're really paying attention to that.
And it's interesting because when it comes to gyms, they're kind of cookie cutter. They are franchise. They follow the same standard. A lot of them are corporately run. Sometimes you get the mom and pop ones, but they're kind of cookie cutter. Whereas a CrossFit gym, I found out they're not all the same.
No, they're all different. And that's what makes CrossFit so great too, is it's kind of like you get a personal trainer in some instances. If you find a good one, it's kind of like you get a personal trainer for $100 a month, at each class. I mean, yeah, they're working with other people as well, but they're going to correct your form. And they're also going to look at what you're doing wrong and try to help you, better yourself. So, which is pretty cool. I mean, I am a personal trainer, so I know that, there's not a lot of trainers you can go to for $100 or $150, whatever it is that they charge a month, depending on, what the prices are in your area.
That is
We're
true.
a less expensive area where I live, so.
Yeah, because I know that when it comes to personal trainers, it can be hit or miss in the gym, in a regular gym. And sometimes I just feel like you could be really throwing your money away, or you could be linking up with someone who actually knows what they're doing. It's like a 50-50. But with CrossFit, could the same thing be said, though? Could you still get a crappy coach, or does that depend on the research you do and the questions you ask? And
there can definitely be crappy coaches, but I mean, I think it's going to be hard to find a gym that all of them are crappy. I mean, usually a CrossFit gym, you're going to have multiple coaches. You're going to have like 4 or 5 coaches at least working there, because they have different hours that they're open, usually 6 days a week, sometimes 7. They'll have like an open gym on a Sunday, some of them. But, you have morning classes and then afternoon and evening classes. So there's usually going to be multiple coaches. I mean, the place that I'm at, there's like 3 coaches that were just great, and there was one that was just, but the 3 really good ones made up for, the one that was just kind of,
So then do you get to rotate through the coaches based upon your payments?
You could go to whatever class you want. So like my CrossFit's open Monday through Friday. They have a 5 a.m., a 6 a.m., a 7 a.m., an 8 a.m., a 9 a.m., and then they close, and then they have like a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6 p.m.,
Okay.
So some coaches will coach, just morning classes. Some coach only 2 days a week. Some coach 3 days a week. It's obviously not like very lucrative, I don't think, for the coaches themselves, unless you're the owner. So people probably do it as, they probably do it as second job.
So it's really group training, and as the group training is going along, the coach is looking at everybody's form and paying attention to everybody?
Yeah, basically there's a workout of the day. There's a strength sometimes, and then a workout of the day. And as everybody's training and doing what they're supposed to do, it's usually timed. So the coach starts the timer, and then they're walking around and looking at your form and correcting anything that's not correct, or helping you modify as well. Like, people that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s do CrossFit. They just modify it to what they can do. Or people that have never exercised in their life. If you can't do a regular pull-up, maybe you can do a banded pull-up. If you can't do a banded pull-up, maybe you can do a ring row. Or, they find something that kind of mimics the exercise that you're working on, but it's a different variation, so it's not as hard.
I see. Okay. All right. Connie has a question about something you had mentioned about. Okay. I'm just going to read what she said. Nancy has mentioned research regarding how women's training and nutrition needs change throughout the month.
Yes.
She wants to hear more about that.
Well, depending on our cycle, I've noticed as I started tracking, because I obviously have a lot of children, so I track my cycle very well because I don't want any more. So I noticed, how our energy and the way that we process different types of food changes throughout the month, whether we're closer to our menstrual cycle or closer to ovulation. When we're closer to our menstrual cycle, probably pulling it back some, not training as hard, because we are a little less, I don't want to say strong, but, we're a little bit more vulnerable to injury and feeling run down. So trying to listen to your body and just maybe not going as heavy or doing as much volume as when you're on the other end of the spectrum, where you can obviously push a lot harder as you get closer to ovulation. You could probably even get a PR sometimes. You could be really, really strong and flexible that time of the month.
Because by then all the hormones are really flying, right? I mean,
yeah, well, it absolutely has to do with our hormone fluctuations. So, which, some of our hormones cause us to feel run down and tired, and other hormones cause us to feel, like our best.
And it's when you're run down and tired is when you're saying you're more vulnerable to injury. Is that what you're saying? And then
yes and no. You can be more vulnerable to injury also when you're closer to ovulation, because you feel so strong.
Oh, you push yourself too hard.
You may go for a PR and, but yeah, most likely when you run down, and you need to listen to your body when you're closer to your period or going on, your time of the month. You should probably pull back a little bit, not exercise. Don't expect so much out of yourself. Some days we feel like Superwoman and we can like do all of these amazing things, and then other days we're like we could barely run a mile at the or go as fast or as hard as we used to, and just listening to your body and pulling back on those days, as well as when we're closer to ovulation, we can eat more carbs and process carbs better, and closer to your menstrual cycle, I think we process fats a little better than we do carbs.
There's Connie is Superwoman 24/7, and I know those times when it's that time of the month when I just know, because I could tell she's tired of being Superwoman. She's just like, yeah. Superwoman's on vacation. Can't take it anymore. But how did you come up with these? Was this a theory that you started out with? Did you find more research on it? How did you go about?
Yeah, I just started tracking my menstrual cycle seriously and my ovulation seriously, so that I wouldn't have any more children, because I don't do well with birth control pills, and I have not yet gotten my tubes tied, although I would like to. I'm scared of the surgery, to be honest. I don't want to take the time off of working out. Not really an excuse, but the biggest thing is that I don't want any more children. So I've really paid attention since my last son, who's going to be 3, when I'm ovulating and tracking, knowing from when the first day of my menstrual cycle till ovulation maybe. And then I would notice like different ways that I feel, so I started just writing it down. And then I also started reading about it and reading different articles, and they kind of matched up with the way I was feeling. So I was like, oh, that's why, that's why I, like 2 weeks ago, I could easily squat clean 205. And now today I can barely pick up, 150 pounds without it feeling like 1,000 pounds, so. just really started paying attention to it, and then also reading. And a lot of people do research on it now, so and it correlates with how I feel.
So what sort of, if you were to look this up online, where did you go?
Uh,
I mean, did you Google it? Did you find a database somewhere?
No, actually, people posted different articles that I read. So, like when my CrossFit gym ended up posting an article about women and different times of the month and how they should exercise, and I read it, and it correlated with what I was saying. And then there's actually, I believe it may have been Allie or somebody else that is in the Takens group that posted, or the ladies group maybe, that posted something to me about actually a male. I can't think of his name, but I guess he's very well known, and he started tracking or writing articles about how females should train at different times of the month. And even though he's male, I guess he trained enough female clients to where he was able to, know what he was talking about.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. I mean, if you're training a whole bunch of women and you start noticing a trend,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be fascinating to just document.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, I hate to get off subject here, but like they talk about like trans females competing against females and stuff like that, and they talk about with that their testosterone's at a lower level. But the one thing that those trans females don't have is they don't have a menstruation. They don't have different times of the month where their hormones fluctuate, their female hormones, and I started thinking about that, like, I mean, is it really all that fair? Like they don't, men are men, and even if you take your testosterone away, you still don't have the same fluctuations in hormones that females have, that we go through.
Actually, that's an interesting topic. I've been wanting to talk about that for a while. Is you've got the transgender, and what's your take?
Honestly,
Politics aside, what's your take on them competing in bodybuilding and everything else? I mean, you kind of touched on it by saying, they don't have the same hormone regulation that everybody else does because of, what they got going on. But
yeah, they weren't born female.
Right.
My take is that, there should be a separate category for that, because they're not, even if they take away their testosterone and make it lower, from the time that a male is born, and then especially once he goes through puberty, he's gets a bigger skeleton. They get more blood vessels, bigger, more blood flow.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things that go on besides testosterone when you compare a male to a female. So, just because they start going through, especially if they don't start going through the change until after puberty, they've already built a way larger skeleton than a female,
Mm-hmm.
and muscle mass and everything else. So I just think that it's unfair to natural born females to have to compete against transgender females.
Because in the end, they'll always have a one-up. They'll always have an advantage.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the truth. If you look at any sports where you compare the male to the female, there's a big difference. And I'm not saying that women are not capable of doing, and that there's not some women that are just, like extremely more capable than other women. But if you compare the most extremely capable woman to the most extremely capable man, there's a big difference.
Yes.
We're not evenly, we're just not evenly given the same amount of advantage in those areas as females. We deposit fat in different ways, and that has a lot to do with hormones as well, especially the fact that we can have children, all of that has to do with hormones. And our hands are smaller, our feet are smaller, our all of us are smaller compared to men. Now there are larger women, but except for the largest woman, there's going to be an even larger man, so.
Yeah, I wonder if I haven't really followed any of this, but have there been any women turned men gone into bodybuilding? Do you know of anything like that?
I don't know about it in bodybuilding, but I did see them talk about it in CrossFit, and they were all for allowing transgender females compete against natural born females, and to me, it's just unfair. It just completely takes females just out of sports altogether.
Hmm.
You're just going to completely wipe us just off. Like why not just make a separate category for transgender females that
Right,
can compete against other transgender females. They don't have to compete against men, but
right.
why should they compete against
And
natural born
I
females?
don't feel that that is taking away a right or a privilege of somebody. I think that that is the best answer. It's that, okay, yeah, you can compete, but I think you should have your own category. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we're trying to ostracize you. It's the fact that you're not equal in any way. I mean, I have nothing against anybody who wants to be something that they want to be. If a
Me
guy
either.
if a guy's a guy, and I know I'm crossing over into that very gray area that I really don't want to do in this podcast, but if a guy is a guy and he wants to become a woman, have at it. But if you want to compete in a physical category where you are trying to be the best you can be at fitness and nutrition and everything, you're not going to be equal to an actual woman. You're going to come out on top. You're going to be probably better.
Yeah, depending. Yeah, I mean, depending. Of course, there's going to be
Depending.
some
Depending.
females that do better than some men, but if you're a top level athlete that is transgender, you're still going to be able to beat a top level female athlete because there's the evenness is not there. They still have a larger skeleton, more blood vessels, more blood flow. They've had more muscle tone based on having testosterone in the past.
Hmm.
Just they don't have the hormones that fluctuate throughout the month like
Right.
females do.
Right. Right.
So all of those things. But I feel the same. Like I have nothing against transgender in any way. Like I didn't even care if they use the same bathrooms, to be honest with you. What I care about is when it comes to sports, because you're completely
It's a totally
taking
different subject.
females, yeah, you're taking females completely out of the equation.
So, since men can sometimes be stronger than women in fitness, and women can always find a way to be stronger than a man in fitness in some way. There's always some aspect that a woman can beat a man. You and your husband work out together, and I must say that I get a kick out of the videos that you post where you guys. The one that I loved the most was, it was a while ago. You had filmed, was it? I think he filmed you first, or you guys were filming each other, and then he like totally did like these dance moves while you were working out. You were being all serious, and he just turned into a jokester. And then you did the same thing like a week later. And it's just so cool that you guys are able to work out. I want to work out with Connie, but we're kind of at an impasse because of the kids. It's really hard to leave them alone and stuff. Well, we can't. They're not old. We can't find a babysitter usually, but so, which one of you is stronger than the other?
Well, I mean, realistically, my husband is absolutely stronger than me, but I've been lifting longer than him. So when it comes to he's just now learning how to squat properly. So when it comes to like a squat, my depth at 315 is going to be right now more than his, but he's moving up so much faster by learning than I would, and he'll easily surpass me. He could put 365 on the bar and almost squat it to depth, without it really doing it multiple times without it being like a 1 rep max. For me, it'll be a 1 rep max, or
Hmm.
so. I mean, ultimately, he's stronger. He just doesn't have the technique yet that I have.
So
I've
how
been doing
long
it longer.
you've been working out for 20 years or more? Well, almost, right? You said that it's like 19. You've been
Yeah.
training. So how long has he been working out then?
Well, he worked out before I met him, but then it's been like 10 years that he took a break. He never worked out like the way that I worked out. People can go to the gym and work out. And he's always been strong. He was a carpenter, so he carried wood. He's done a lot of things where he's just naturally strong. He's a big
Hmm.
man. He's 6'2".
He's a tall guy.
Yeah, and he's got very large hands, very, like we were talking about before, men being larger. So he's naturally strong. I mean, he could pick something up. He could probably pick up something that's way more than I could pick up in, a fit of rage and like throw it, but
Uh-huh.
when it comes to like technical working out, like powerlifting is a lot about technique as well. And so he's just learning powerlifting from me. Now, if you talk about
Okay.
like, just bodybuilding type working out and stuff like that, he's done that a long time and he can lift a lot of weight that way for a lot of reps. But bodybuilding, you really don't lift a ton of weight. You just kind
No.
of like, exactly. So
Yeah,
when it
bodybuilding
comes,
is more about doing this. It depends on what you want to achieve, but
right,
normally
most
you're
of
not
them aren't,
lifting a lot.
yeah. And most of them aren't going for a 1 rep max. Usually you're trying to do reps, 8 to 15 reps. So working out that way, he's done for a long time and he's stronger than me. But when it comes to like a 1 rep max on obviously a bench, he can do more than me. He's a man, but
Hmm.
when it comes to, he's still not at his potential of what he can do when he learns the technique better, as well as a squat or a deadlift. He's not at his potential yet because he's just learning the technique, and there's definitely technique that comes with doing a 1 rep max.
So you train him then? You're his trainer?
Yeah. Hmm.
And how does that go over? I mean, was he used to? I mean, how, he's probably used to it now, but was it kind of one of those things where he was finding it difficult to have his wife tell him what to do everything, or because I
Yeah.
know when it comes to my wife telling me stuff, sometimes I get easily annoyed. So
Yeah, he still does sometimes. Sometimes I have to like, say to him, like one time I said to him, I was like, listen, if you were to talk to me, because he works in the field of addiction, if you were to talk to me about something to do with addiction or your job, you would expect me to listen to you, and pay attention to what you're saying. So you have to understand this is my job. So if I'm teaching you something, it's because I'm teaching you, not because I'm trying to like chastise you or,
uh
nag you or anything like that. I'm trying to teach you. So you just have to be respectful of the fact that I'm teaching. And he understood that and made it a little bit better that way. But still, even if we're in the gym, sometimes he doesn't want to do what I tell him to do. Even the other day, I was like, can you just do what I prescribed for you? And when I said it that way, he just laughed at me and said I was cute, and he did it.
so you just got to speak his language sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, of course, it's
Oh, that's
hard
funny.
for a husband to take, you guys are just not natured that way to take orders from your wife.
Have
Of
you
course.
ever have you ever had what am I trying to say? Have you ever had a very challenging client? And if you did, what was the most challenging aspect of that client?
Yeah, I've had a few challenging clients. I have one younger kid that he's challenging and he drains me sometimes, and I have to learn to separate myself because he just wants to do what he wants to do and he wants to do it quickly. So you're trying to like teach him form and trying to get him to slow down, but he just wants to like lift this weight fast. He feels, but he's a kid still, so he's still learning. But
Hmm.
even a lot of adults are that way too, where they want to just rush through something like I could do it, instead of allowing you to have them slow down so they can actually recruit as much muscle fibers, feel the actual movement. I mean, there's definitely like a science to lifting weights, to like feeling it and feeling recruiting as much muscle fibers as you can and knowing how to hold your core tight, knowing when to breathe. There's a lot that comes into it that people don't understand. They just think you're just like moving a weight from A to B,
And that's
and
when
it's,
injuries happen.
yeah. And that's what you don't want to do as a personal trainer is have anybody injure themselves. So people that are that way that just want to like grab the weight and move it as quickly as they can without actually feeling the movement or listening to what you have to say, they can be challenging. So you have to find a way to speak their language, I guess. So they
Okay.
understand.
Any other? What's well? Was there ever a client that you ever hit a wall? You were just you any
No,
clients that like that, or have you always found a way to break through?
I think I've always found a way to break through with clients that I mesh with. Of course, as people, there's always going to be people that you don't mesh with, and usually they end up not coming back anyway. They don't usually last long. As individuals, we all find people that we can get along with personality wise, and the energy is the same, and you work well with. And then there's always going to be people that you just don't work well with, same as a massage therapist. There's people that absolutely love my massage and say I'm the best massage therapist ever. And then there's, certain people that, when it's very rare, but I've had certain people that, just, they're like, oh, it was good. And they don't come back, so there's always going to be people that you don't, that don't fit well with you.
But you just take the wins. I mean, you consider, in that aspect, though, you consider how hard you tried with that person, right? And rather than looking at it, it wasn't
Absolutely.
necessarily a failure on your part.
Of course not. It's never failure on my part or on their part. It's just that's how it is in the world. I'm old enough to understand that you're not going to get along with everybody. Not everybody's going to feel your energy. Not everybody's going to be as positive as you. And, some people are different. We're all different, Some people we work well with and others we don't.
Yeah, I just I love being able to ask you that question, ask you these questions, because I've talked to my friend Matt, who's a personal trainer. He's in episode 1, and then I talked to Brent, who's a regional director for Anytime Fitness. It's just nice to talk to someone, first of all, who's outside of Anytime Fitness, someone who is a personal trainer, because there's probably other people out there who are thinking about being a personal trainer who have become one, and they might come across a client that they just think that's all their fault that client didn't stick around. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's got to be a thought that goes through your head at some point, right, Nancy? I mean,
yeah, I'm sure that we've all, nobody wants to feel a rejection. So you're probably thinking in your head, well, what did I do wrong, or this or that? But like I said, I think that I'm old enough and been through it enough to know that not everybody's just going to mesh well with me, and that's okay, because there's plenty of personal trainers and other people out there that will mesh well with that person and will be able to get through to them. And there's plenty of people in the world that I do mesh well with and that do understand me and do like the way that I train and stick it out with me. We can't take everything as personal.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I've got for you, Nancy, unless you can think of something else you want to talk about.
No,
I think that's all I've got. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. I know you had to get away from your kids for a little bit, so I will return you to your... Oh, that's the good part. I hear you. All right, Nancy. Well, to the rest of you guys out there, you keep setting your goals and you keep at it.